Okay, I'm live. All right, so it's summer and I've had serious internet issues, so I will not. Oh, you think I'd learn? So yeah, I'm not really going to be surprised if not many people make it. But I thought this was really important to talk about because this is the number one thing that I see send people sort of in the wrong direction, or really like slow their manifestation down, because it's natural. We live in this world, and it's natural for us to look outside of ourselves to sort of assess where we are. So around, I don't know, I think it's around 4 or so, we start to really see ourselves through the eyes of others. So before that, we really are more our true selves. But as we begin to see ourselves through the eyes of other people, that is when we begin to develop these ideas that are a lot more limited. So, imagine you're like 4 and your friend says, "Oh, I hate your pants," or "Those are funny pants," or whatever a 4-year-old would say. And so for the first time, you may be self-conscious about that aspect of yourself. And I mean, 4-year-olds probably don't care so much about their pants, but I think you understand what I'm saying. And so what I often see is that people will start to create what it is that they want. And as they do, they look outside of themselves to see, is it happening? Is it happening? And so if they look outside, and because our reticular activating system is already set to notice the things that are in line with who we believe we are and what we believe about the world. So if you have set beliefs about the world, then you are going to look outside, and your reticular activating system is only going to bring in the information that really confirms that. And so it essentially filters. I've spoken about this before. And I don't really know the numbers per se, but so let's say your subconscious is taking in like 1 million bits of information every second. Your reticular activating system is filtering in like, I don't know, 100 or 1,000 of that into your conscious awareness. Like, it's a very small amount. I would say out of 1 million, it's probably like 100. And so if you are set to believe that, and a lot of these beliefs are pretty unconscious to us, because consciously we have these other ideas of who we are or who we want to be. And a lot of your self-concept is how you want to be seen, not necessarily in awareness of who you actually are, right? Self-concept has a few levels. So it would be what your actual beliefs are, and those are going to show up through your body. Those are going to show up as feelings and like your thoughts and such, because your thoughts don't create, they just demonstrate the state that you're in. And so as we hello, Facebook user. Oh, I see it's Serena. Hi. Happy Thursday to you. I'm glad you're here. So we're not always consciously aware of our self-concept. This is something that's important to understand, is that so you may believe, I'm a really confident person, but as you step into a situation and you begin to feel that nervousness, that there's a reason, there's an underlying belief, or there's something that's running underneath that is basically telling you, by that situation triggering your nervous system, that you have an aspect of your self-concept that does not necessarily align with what it is that you want to do. Oh, I see she put the broom there. I bet she was not sweeping though. So this is why, and so what happens is we start to create something, but then we look outside of ourselves to see, is it happening? Now, what this essentially is you're now looking at the external world to not only give you permission to demonstrate, oh, can I actually have this, but also to confirm. So when you manifest, it's important you make a decision. Now, decision itself, it has the Latin root word side, right? When you decide. So that's essentially that root word, like homicide, insecticide, you're killing off, right? So side, when you decide, you're in essence cutting off all other options. And so if you are questioning, then you have in essence not decided. And so that is why when we look outside of ourselves to confirm, it sort of shows that we haven't decided. We want it, we might be moving towards it, but if I decide to go to the grocery store, I'm going to the grocery store. It might not be this minute, but I'm going to the grocery store. It doesn't mean I've suddenly decided, well, oh, my car has a flat tire, so I guess I'm going to grow my own food. No, I've decided I'm going to buy it from the grocery store. And so we can often have a hard time layering the two, feeling like they're different, but they're not. And so if you have not decided that it's yours, then, and the way that you understand whether or not you've decided is when you look outside of yourself and are moved by that, by what you see. So if I understand because I can shift and move with what I see outside of me, but then it comes to what needs to happen is that you take the focus from the outside and move it to the inside. And so what does this look like? Well, I'll explain what this looks like, but I want to explain a little more about why. So when we manifest, especially when we want to manifest things that are related to what we deem to be our self-value. So for some people, it's money, right? So they struggle financially, and that is a reflection of their self-value. They won't ask for the money, or they won't go for the things that will bring them the money because they feel, they might have that little voice inside their head, like somebody else will get that. Or they might go for it, but they do it in a bit of a half-hearted way, or they struggle, or all these things will demonstrate themselves in subtle ways in your life. Or the same as love. So this person said this about me, and they internalize that. Or this person left, so it means this about me. When in reality, that's actually not true. I mean, I've said before, I have said horrible things in anger that I did not mean. And so I have learned by self-reflection that just because someone says that does not necessarily mean that they mean it. I need to look at the overall context. Hello. Yeah, it just says your Facebook user. So hello, Facebook user. I'm glad you're here. So we look to the outside world, and so this often will knock us off of our manifestation path or slow it down, or sometimes what will cause some people to believe that this isn't possible for me, and then they will give up. But the reality is you're looking in the wrong place. It's important to look to, the more internally focused you are when you are creating something, the faster you can get there, because your internal guidance system will always give you the direction that you need. All those feelings that come up that feel really terrible, they all have a message in them. And I've talked about this in other videos. Each of your chakra points will tell you what that belief is, right? So when you feel that knot in your throat, that's that sense of not feeling seen or heard, or have your opinion valued, or your contribution valued in your heart space. This is where you're finding like disconnection or no trust. So we protect our heart. So when you're protecting your heart, are you really inviting love in? And so when it shows up in your stomach, this is showing up essentially as like your self-esteem, your personal power. And so this is where a lot of self-doubt will appear. And so these feelings, we think they're coming from the people and the circumstances outside of us, but they're not. Your body is telling you who you are and what you actually believe you can or can't have. And so, sorry, those earrings are a little big. Okay, so when you manifest something, it doesn't matter what it is. It's structural. It's not personal. So if I manifest love, it's not because I'm more lovable than you. It's not because I am anything. It means that I understand the structure of love and I adhere my internal condition to that structure. And that is essentially, yeah, your solar plexus is always talking to you. For me, it's often in my throat. I have some, I've kind of talked before about how I used to have a real issue with being on camera. And so I know when that's coming, or when that used to come, it was very much like there was a real constriction. And so it was basically telling me that, you know, I had beliefs about that I didn't have anything to say of value, right? And so I could have let that throw me off, but I mean, where would I be? So ideally, we want to recognize what message we're receiving internally, because that's showing you when you are in alignment, right? That's showing you the state that you're in. So if I am feeling angry or resentful or fearful or doubtful, my body is telling me that I am out of alignment with my manifestation. It's also telling me, right, that alignment is a structure. So if we thought about structure, it's like everything in the universe has structure. So the structure of a chair, it's made of wood, but the structure of it is different than the structure of, say, a tree or just a plain old board. It's still wood, but it has a different structure. Or a river. The banks are the structure of the river. It determines, the water is very fluid, and so the structure of it determines the direction, the width, the depth. Otherwise, without that, the water goes everywhere. Or, you know, if the structure is wide, the depth is low. So love is the same. Think about when you're in love. Are you feeling, all right, when you're actually in love and when that love is successful, when you start off a relationship, especially, and that's why I always sort of direct people to really mine the beginning of their relationships for a lot of the fuel that's going to take them to the end. Because when you step into this relationship and you can't get enough of one another, it's because you're in the structure of that love. And to create love, it really helps to move back into that structure. You definitely were not thinking or feeling, boy, this person is so terrible, or this person doesn't love me, or this person never, because if you were, you would never have made it to the point where you were in a consistent relationship, right? If I'm gonna start dating someone and I'm already having these feelings about, boy, he doesn't think very nicely of me, or he's ignoring me, I'm not gonna get very far. And it's not different when you manifest. That is the structure of love. And so you move yourself into it. And so when you understand, right, the structure of success, if I want to be successful, I'm going to need to show up. And if I'm not showing up, then I'm out of the structure of success. If I am in the structure of terrible money, then I am going to, every time I get a bill, my nervous system is going to go off and I'm going to freak out. Because what does it show me? Who does it show me I'm being? What does it show me I believe about money, my ability to make money, my ability to keep money, my ability to pay my bills? So there's a structure to everything. And the thing is, we often feel that it's outside of us that's creating it. But the thing is, there are lots of people in your life, I imagine, that felt passionately about you that you may not have felt that back for. And so you not being in the structure of that love eventually dissuades them from being in that. And the fact that they don't know that they just need to move into the proper structure to manifest that. But that also, you know, we could bring in some other concepts, but I'm not going to go into that. But essentially, there is a structure to everything that you create. And so if you want to, that is why coming from an internal focus is going to give you so much more power than doing all the things that you think manifest and then looking outside yourself. Is it happening? Oh no, it's not happening. Okay, now you're in the structure of it not happening. So essentially, if you are no longer looking outside of yourself for permission to have it, you just look internally. Okay, this thing has happened. How does this feel? All right, I've noticed how it feels. Who does this tell me that I am? Right? Because we create from our state. Our reality springs from our identity. If I feel like someone who is unappreciated, if I feel like someone, I need to protect myself from the person that I love, how far do you think I'm going to get? What kind of identity do you think I'm demonstrating? What does it look like I'm demonstrating about my relationship? Nothing good. So it's really important not to look outside of yourself. And so I talk about this a lot because it's really important. If you believe that you can have something, how does that feel? Everybody thinks it's mental, but it's not. I can tell myself I believe something, but if my body is telling me that I don't, which one do you think is actually telling me the truth? Because we have psychological sort of safeguards. So we can tell ourselves something. I can absolutely lie to myself. And if I don't want to actually face the reality, then I'm going to lie to myself and I'm going to stay stuck in this space. But my body's going to tell me the truth, right? So this is why even not listening to what people say and instead really noticing sort of what they do, because that's really where they're going to show up. That's where they're truly going to show up, because whatever we've got going inside, we can speak all the words we want, but we're actually going to do the things because we express our unconscious through our body, whether we want to or not. And that's why you can feel when someone pretends to be confident, but isn't. And so that's why it's important to understand that it's not about faking it. It's not about ignoring it. It's about looking inside and determining what it is that is actually happening. I can pretend to be confident, but I could show up and feel so completely unconfident, and I can fake it all I want. But the fact that, hi Karen, the inner work, yeah, it can be really tricky, but everything I've ever manifested, as long as I focus internally, then it gives you a key to understand yourself, understand how you're showing up, and understand what you actually believe, and I can control my internal condition. And so, right, like if I show up to an event and I am pretending to be confident versus being actually confident, based on just neuroception, people can feel that. But I'm showing up, I'm maybe stumbling over my words, I'm maybe saying stupid things. I mean, some of the things before I really was able to like determine my identity and step into that, I remember showing up and just like word vomit. I would say the stupidest things because I was so nervous and I just wanted to be liked. And it's really freeing just to let all of that go. And so that really came down to understanding what it is that I'm seeing inside. And so I mean, I've put out a lot of videos to help people understand what it is you're seeing, because just from a psychological perspective, 90% of the things that you think people are doing that are against you are actually your psychology, your energy. It's that thing in your psyche. It wants to be resolved. And so the 7 ASEAN mirrors talk about the ways that people show up in our lives to demonstrate that. And projection, I've talked about, they either are going to show up as something that you are doing in your life, something you want to be doing, or something but you're not doing, or something that you wish you're doing, but you've never really created that foundation for yourself. They're great, but the one with you gets serious results. I'm not sure I understand that. Oh, the one-on-one. Yeah, well, hopefully. I think I can express myself better in a one-on-one situation. I know my videos sound super great in my head, and then when I film them, I'm like, oh well, it's going up anyway. But I mean, it's also hard to talk to people in a like blanketed way and really try to get what you want to get across. So, you know, I do my best. But it's really important. So this is an excellent tool. There was a time in my life where my husband and we would fight a lot about money. And he absolutely, when I really started to use some of the mirrors, I noticed, oh, he's showing up as my father. I didn't necessarily have an amazing relationship with my father, and it was very much steeped in money and versions of my self-belief, like self-value. And so my husband would show up that way, but always, and if you start tracking this, you're really gonna notice that I would, so for example, I would pay a bill, but then I would feel anxious about it. And sure enough, he and I would get into a fight, or he'd start questioning me, like, what are you doing paying that bill? Like, what do you mean, what am I doing paying a bill? So as I was able to notice this and understand what am I seeing, I was able to see, oh, I'm recreating this thing with my father over and over and over and over again. And as I was able to do that, I learned to manage my energy before it really ever came to the part where it would manifest itself in my life. And as I did that, he like stopped showing up that way. I mean, and I was able to notice, oh, this feeling I have in my solar plexus when we're fighting about money is actually because I'm carrying this doubt that I can actually support myself in the way that I want to be into the lifestyle I want. So now I'm putting all of that weight on him. And so and as I was able to notice that, I could question, like, is that true? No, that's stupid. And so I was able to really start to untangle, like, ooh, when I see this bill and I start to get nervous, what does that imply about me? It implies that I'm not going to be able to make the money to pay this bill. So if I pay out the money, there's no more money. Well, that's not true either. So as you begin to really start notice what's going on inside of you rather than looking outside of you and feeling like the circumstances are the problem, you really open yourself to like create in ways that you never imagined. And that's why if my husband were to walk in tomorrow and say he's leaving me, I'd just be like, see you tomorrow. No, you're not. Because I can feel what it feels like to know, yeah, I am kick-ass, excuse my language. And to know, like, this is what it feels like to be a woman whose husband adores her compared to the woman, there was a point in time where, I mean, when I met him, that's who I felt like. And then there was a point in time where there was a very subtle shift and it required him to create my joy. Like, I mean, I wouldn't go out anywhere. I wouldn't do anything. I figured it was, you know, he needed to take me places because I had all this bunched up idea of what it was to be a mom or a wife or, right? I was really kind of like corralling myself and then putting the weight on him. And I started to get really insecure and poof, what happened? My marriage fell apart. Like it's, and I've done this a couple times. So I was able to I started paying attention. What is happening? And I mean, every time, if I want to shift something, my question is, who am I being right now? And my body, my internal focus will tell me. And so if something shows up in my life and I don't like it, the trick is always move my internal state, because my internal state is showing me I don't believe I'm the person that can have this. And so if I'm looking outside the world and I'm like, you know, doing all the visualizations and the dances and it's not working for me, it's because internally, at the identity level, I'm not aligned with that. And what it feels like is that sense of calm, because you're not creating love from a sense of anxiety and fear and doubt. You're actually, the other people are picking up on you. And I mean, I've talked a lot about this because this is a real thing. And I'm going to talk about biocommunication because it's fascinating and I love it. So it's a little bit of feed my own interests there. But I think it's important to understand that if plants can pick up your intentions and your thoughts and your emotions, why on earth would you think that a human being could not? And so it's when you, as long as you just focus on what's happening for you internally, you can move through those circumstances and you can change them. Because any circumstance I've ever changed, and if you can get there, like where you're just shift, then you're going to change that quickly. But, you know, sometimes you have to work through it. I mean, a lot of these things, it took me some time to step in. What would this feel like? Okay, what does it feel like now? What would this feel like? Okay, what does it feel like now? And sometimes, because we all go unconscious, I will go unconsciously into this state. But I know that each time I felt like I'm not getting what I want in my relationship, if I move into the structure of love, I'm 100% getting. And it's not because I'm expecting him to change. It's because I understand that if I want love, all I have to do is give love, not from a needy place, not from a place of like, oh, please notice me, I'm going to wait on you hand and foot. No, not like that at all, but just from a place of where really focusing in my heart center area. So that's where I focus first, not on the behavior. I focus on like, what does it feel like to really just absolutely adore this man and recognize, not from a place of it being one-sided either, from a place of, he just really adores me. And I don't care if he's kind of been cranky the last little while, or maybe he hasn't brought me flowers in a while, or whatever that is, like, but from a place of recognizing he really loves me. And that's that place, that's that structure of love. And when you want to manifest money, it's that same structure, and not what does it feel like to be a millionaire, because that feels regular. If I have $1 million, it feels like I can pay my bills and it's regular, and I don't need to stress about this bill that I'm looking at. So I need to look at what my body is telling me when the anxiety comes up, when the thoughts come up, because thoughts don't create and emotions don't create. I know I talk a lot about them, but that's not what creates. You create from your state, and those demonstrate what your state is. And your emotions especially. Your body has a lot to tell you. And so anytime, if you just shift and choose new, because that's where you choose possibility. Once you have, when you are in a place of, say, fight or flight or fear or doubt or what have you, you've essentially fixed possibility. You've collapsed the wave into that. But when you are in that state of pure calm, and I think the next live I'll do, and again, as I mentioned, because the summer is busy and we'll travel and we have a lot of things happening, that I'll probably be maybe do just a live every second week, or and if attendance is really low, then I'm just probably going to save myself this structured time and just do more videos in lieu of a live. But I'd like to take you through a process that will help you move into that space of like just calm. It's essentially a space of surrender, because that is where the possibility is. That is essentially where you can choose to eradicate all the fears, all the doubts, whatever, and create from there. Because every moment is that chance to choose again. But it's important to recognize, who am I being right now? How do I feel? Am I collapsing the wave into something I don't want, right? A lot of quantum healing or quantum creation requires you first to get into that really calm state. So, okay. That's for the most part what that's what I wanted to talk about, because I see that the most frequently is that when and I've done this myself, so no judgment, but looking outside to see if it's working. Because as soon as we do that, we make an assessment of what's happening outside of us. But if you instead just kind of focus on, how do I feel? Who am I being? And then create from there, then you open yourself to possibility. You open yourself to creating a lot more powerfully. So, okay. It's been 30 minutes. I'm not gonna really go over, because that is really what I wanted to talk about, but I do want to answer some questions if anyone has questions about this. And this is the worst part where I have to sit and be patient. Okay, I'm going to assume maybe nobody has any questions. And yeah, I'm going to encourage you to really start to pay attention to your internal state and your even your internal dialogue, because they're the same. And it's going to tell you who you are. It's going to tell you why your life looks the way it looks, because I mean, that is essentially demonstrating who you are. And if you want to change something in your life, the more focused you get on how do I feel right now? What does this mean? And asking yourself the question, what is this really about? Because I've been angry, and to be honest, anger is not a primary emotion, it's a secondary emotion. And it shields us from a greater truth that we don't want to admit. And so often, if I ask myself that question over again, I will not accept that when my mind tries to tell me, oh, well, you're mad about this thing that's happening around you right now. I won't accept that. So I will ask over and over again, what is this really about? And I will scan through my body to really notice what is happening. What is this really about? Because that is going to allow my subconscious to bring up what it is. And I'm, again, going to keep in mind those 3 states of projection, or the 7 ASEAN mirrors, because essentially we are, our psyche is layering something over top of our current experience, and we creating perception. Okay. Well, I haven't really been posting videos, the lives on YouTube, but I think this one is a really important one. And I know I am not the only manifesting teacher that talks about really focusing on your internal state, because it's like moving into that space of surrender or detachment, I guess. That's where your power is being able to really let go of outcome. That's where your focus is, not trying to change something outside of you, but really recognizing what is this thing outside of you reflecting that is internal. And that is essentially where you have an unbelievable amount of power to create something new, something different. And that's always where I have created a big shift from, is because it shows me who I'm being, that identity level version of me. Because if I believe something, I definitely am not showing up with fear. Want and belief are different. And so, yeah, notice what's happening inside of you. And the more embodied you get, the louder those messages get, but the more clear they get, and the more capacity you have to create from there. So, okay, this time I really mean it. I am all done. And so hopefully you have a really fantastic rest of your Thursday. I'm getting ready my daughter graduates tomorrow, so I'm very excited. And we have some outfits to plan, which I'm not gonna lie is my second favorite thing to do. So have a really wonderful evening, and I will possibly, I won't be back next week because it's Canada Day. So the week after I will. So yeah, have a great rest of your night.